Well, Shreveport and Bossier City, welcome again to another edition of Keeping It Real. I'm your co-host, Alvin Oliver, along with co-host Michael Williams. And of course, our host is normally the one and only Pastor Linus Mays, but instead today he's a little bit under the weather. So we have another freedom fighter, an activist who's been in the game for a very long time. He's about to enjoy his co-hosting duties. He's none other than Lester Smith. Lester, welcome to the show.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
And not only that, Shreveport, we got a big treat in here for you today. We call him the neighborhood watchdog. He's just like some of us. He's a fighter. He's unapologetic about what he has to say and who he has to say it to. He keeps with the theme of the show, and that is keeping it real. And we have in the house none other than Robert Thomas Jr. Robert Thomas Jr., welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
We're glad to have you, man. We've been wanting to get you in here for a minute, but you know, we've been booked up. And so we're going to kind of talk about today the climate that's going on here in our fair city, man. And that's the biggest talk of the day, you know, is the current climate with the crime the way it is. And man, it's just seeming to get ridiculous by the day. So we're going to find out, Robert, what's your take on what's going on in Shreveport, man? We know you're going to keep it real, so come on with it.
There's a couple of things that we can, point to, but most importantly, when it comes to the Black community, what we're seeing is a culture that has been put up on us. You got to realize, we as Black folks in America, we're the only people on this planet that does not have our original culture, language, history intact. We came here as slaves. The first thing that they did was take away our culture, basically made us beasts. You know, they indoctrinated us to be beasts. Now, since quote unquote slavery has ended, which we all know it ain't never ended, it's just taking over different forms. They have given us a culture through your media, especially your social media, your movies, your video games. They have given us a culture of death, violence, chaos, destruction, and mayhem. And you seeing that play out every day on the news, on the street, right on the streets. And it's gotten to the point now where the boys in the hood have moved to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? It's spreading everywhere. And again, it comes from a lack of culture.
So Robert, with all that's going on in this city, do you think that is the police doing all that they could do or should do? What's your opinion on that, Robert?
I would just keep it real.
Keep it real.
I believe the police, in a lot of cases, are perpetrating or perpetuating some of the stuff that's going on. Man, there's no way you can tell me that a man who has 18 violent charges, 12 of them attempted second-degree murder charges, all these murder type and attempted murder charges, is still on the streets. We have to ask the question, where these cats getting all these guns from? Where they getting all this dope from? We know for a fact, last year, you had 8 police get fired for drug dealing here in Shreveport. So you look at the police beating people. I mean, it's part of the culture, the lack of culture, but I asked what part of the police played in it, and then two, at the same time, the police only come after a crime has been committed. You see what I'm saying? So if we can't ask just what the police doing, we gotta ask what some of these parents doing. We gotta ask what some of these city leaders doing, some of our politicians my pastors, people who say that they are community activists. I mean, how active are you really in the community? Because I truly believe that in order to speak for the people, you must walk amongst them in order to know what they say. And a lot of people get on social and talk all stuff like they're really down for the struggle. But if you're really down for the struggle, it's gonna cost you jobs. It's gonna cost you relationships if you really gonna stand up for the truth. So I ask what part does everybody play in it? But again, in the police case, how much are they perpetuating some of the stuff that's going on?
So Robert, let me ask you before I hand it off to Mike and Lester. What's the fix, man?
First and foremost, parents now of younger people take these smart devices away from your children.
Yeah.
Because what is happening, your devices become smarter than us. These devices are designed to take away your thought process.
Right.
Whereas what happens when these youngsters and a lot of other adults now are faced with high pressure situations, we can no longer think. We're responding off what we've seen last on Facebook or YouTube or video game that we play. So first and foremost, we have to come back to a culture of family where mama, daddy is the norm instead of baby mama and baby daddy. We have to have family sitting down at the dinner table like we used to. You know what I'm saying? Now, son don't even come in for dinner. Daughter, she in her room on her phone. Mama just ordered some diner DoorDash from Burger King, and there's no concept of family or culture. So the first foremost is understanding the problem. And the problem is mainly, in my opinion, we have been dumbed down and desensitized to death, violence, chaos, and mayhem. Well, we desensitized to the point it's normal.
So David Cox says here on Facebook, ask the DA what's the fix, not necessarily the SPD. So do we think that the DA is doing enough in putting these guys away and giving them the long ride? When they had the law enforcement meeting on the steps of the federal courthouse, I made mention to the DA that, we should, because there are some people, man, that's got 2 and 3 probations. And so, people shouldn't be having 2, 3 probations when they got more than 1 felony. You should go ahead and send these people down the road. I understand everybody is related to somebody, but if you don't know how to conduct yourself in society and you are a menace to society, you should be taken out of society and put where those menaces are. Come on with it, Robert.
But what happens when you send them to these slave plantations known as prisons, where there's no rehabilitation? You put them in these boxes for years at a time. Don't try to rehabilitate them, then you put them right back out on the street. So the key to it is keep them from having to go see the DA. Because again, the DA only gets involved after somebody does it. You can pass every law getting tougher on crime, but guess what? A person is not going to face that law until after they broke that law. So you got to try to, it starts way before the DA. Now, the DA can get tough, like on these killers, especially child molesters, anybody in their home, the elderly or our youngsters. They need to face the toughest penalties possible.
Absolutely.
But, a lot of these petty crimes, man, come on, man. In Louisiana, you got a 3-strike law. Basically, they call it multi-billion, where you can get caught maybe stealing $200 for fuel this time, let's spend it. $500 for coke this time, $300 for meat. You're really a non-violent offender, but now you're going away for a mandatory 15 years.
Right.
So you put a man in a prison system with other men, there's no temporary rehabilitation, you're putting an animal back out of it.
Absolutely. And we know that a lot of these prison systems, not a lot of them, most of them, they don't have a rehabilitation program set up to put these guys back into society, man. You hear the name so often, the reentry program. The reentry program, man, depending on who's behind it, is really a joke.
It's a money making for-profit scheme.
Yeah, absolutely right. And so first of all, before we go on, let me tell you all listeners that you can call in with your questions. If you have questions for Robert Thomas or Lester Smith, you Call in at 222-2744. That's 318-222-2744. You can weigh in on our Facebook Live. You can also weigh in on Robert Thomas Jr. YouTube channel a little later on. And so moving on, we're going to pass the mic over to Mr. Michael Williams. Let's see what he thinks about this.
Let me just say, having to be around tables, men that have a pulse for the people, for the concerns of people, the plight of street poor in America. I couldn't say enough about Robert Thomas. He's been keeping it real for many years, feeling the pain and the pulse of people in the street poor across America. But particularly, I want to talk about a political hot topic in America, which is a hot potato issue regarding police reform. How do we rebrand and build relationships in America? Because America has become a country jump of life. And there is a distrust, a disconnect between this culture, this new millennium, and this culture of police officers. So how do we intervene with all the explicit rap music and movies that show us always in a negative form? They show us in radio rap music, saying I'm paying gold teeth, grill, call us the ratchet city. Why we got to be called the ratchet city? I think we need to deregulate that and call us a great city. Now, no different than other cities. We got issues, we got problems, like anybody else's problem. But all this barbaric behavior and killing each other. So, like you said earlier, Brother Thomas, we've been trained and been programmed to hate ourselves because for 400 years we've been slaves and locked up, barefoot, pregnant, and ignorant. They took away our rights. They took away. We helped build this country, and we were immigrants brought to this country. Helped build America. America don't want to give us anything. Somebody come in and give a loan, economic opportunity. We can get anything. So how do we build this, rebrand the police department to interact with young black men? We raise our hand, we get shot. We can be praying and we get shot. We reach for our bill when we get shot. So how do we repackage and rebuild our relationship to trust the police? Police serving and protecting, but they're serving right. How do we interact and build that trust and make a Freeport safe again with the police?
I'm a firm believer, man, that in order to understand what our government is allowed to go on with the police, you have to understand what our government is doing around the world in other countries acting as the world police. Black people, we need to understand, with all our heart, what is happening to the Palestinians. Mm-hmm. Because the tactics that they use on us here in America, they are learning from the way the Israelis treat the Palestinians. Now, what you have happening is a lot of these cats coming back from these wars, these illegal foreign wars, and went over there and killed all these people barbarically and savagely in the name of democracy. Mm-hmm. And when you look at those countries, ain't no democracy because they all bombed out. They're number rubber. Now these guys went over there and committed war crimes, killing innocent people. They're messed up in the head. So let's even go back to the Bible. Do you all remember when the children of Israel, God told the children of Israel, when they went out to war and they killed all these people, they could not come back inside the city. The soldiers had to sit outside the city for a year so they could psychologically deal with all the barbarism, all the innocent death that they committed. So now you got all these mentally ill police, people coming back from these wars. And one of the main jobs they apply for first is what? Police officers. So now you're putting people who went over there and brutalized, murdered, and other people without any consequence. You put them on your street. And having these cats, put it like this, police are the number one group for antidepressant use in America. And what's the number one side effect for antidepressant? Violent or suicidal behavior, aggressive behavior. Half of them on steroids, which makes you what? Aggressive. So you got a bunch of mentally ill people coming back from these wars, and they glad to put them on the street because I do believe that there is a program and agenda. Now, this just me, there's an agenda to allow these police to brutalize not only black folks, but us in particular, but everybody, because they're preparing for a martial law type situation. situation, and you can see that coming down the road. So they have to have these cops willing to beat you upside your head and shoot you without a reason. They're not endorsing it publicly, but you can tell they're endorsing it because very seldom do any of them get convicted.
Other question, I don't want to play the blame game, but somebody has to be accountable. And I'm going to say, it's in our elected officials, what you said, parents, it's the government, it's the church. Because to me, I think we're fighting a spiritual war. It can't be war with bombs and guns and knives and ammunition. Because, you know, the nation sits on God's shoulder. And the government sits on God's shoulder. So God allowed these things to happen. But they will always say, God ain't gonna come down here. Because God is now allowed us to be represented through him in our hearts. He built inside of us, give us the will and the power of the Holy Spirit and authority to operate in it. So we have the power to fight Satan. This is the Satan of the world, and it's Babylonian. You got to use prayer power and real power. Yeah. Okay, but everybody ain't gonna accept Jesus. Let's be real. You can pray till your teeth fall out. It will be bad and good when they come in all colors. They got more bad people than basketball. So we got a lot of bad people. Satan folk is taking over the world. It ain't just white folk, it's black folk and all sin folks. So everybody look like you ain't for you. You know, all kids folks ain't sitting in afraid. So what I'm saying is, who do it? We find help and hope to help us solve the problem. Besides, the black church has always been the cornerstone of the black community. Do we need to go back to the old landmark like we used to do? And that's what we did our thing. So who do you think we need to hold accountable? And who do you think that we need to find some help and some hope in the problem that manifests in America?
Before you answer that, Robert, let me say that Annie Pipkins, the number is 318-222-2744. 318-222-2744. Annie Pipkins said, what about getting to the root of the problem by reaching the low economic and underprivileged children in the prime of their life before the streets does? More teaching and crime prevention early in their life. A lot of black male figures are missing in the home. Some men are repeat offenders because all they know is the streets. Yes, that's the number. And Pipkins, call in.
It's all right.
Andre Elias said, we didn't help build it, we built America. David Cox says, bring back school away from school and make Baton Rouge understand programs work if you get a child early. But Baton Rouge spends our money for the benefit of I-10 South. And so I do believe that bringing back school away from school is a good idea. It worked back then, but again, we live in a different climate. And also, I think we need to do better with our technical vocational schools, man, because, I think, it's sad to say, I think VOTEC is terrible, man.
But the president said last night, no job. You ain't got to have a college degree. You ain't got to have a degree. So that means the rebuild America will be vocational training, skill set to build the new America. So I like what the president said. Everybody in college here. Let's be real. Regulation, then they go drop out of school. The council already see the path from the pipeline from school to prison. But how do you solve that when they redline and write a lot of tickets in the black community? You better go down and see how they write more tickets in the black community. You know what I'm saying? So you can put the police on every corner. That could be a criminal hiding behind the bush. So you have to put something inside of them to change. You can't change people on the outside.
Well, I'm saying, go ahead, Mr. Love.
I'm just listening, man. You guys hitting the ball, there's some underlying issues. Okay. And I think morally, we're big. So we get what we get because we don't want mom badges. Mike mentioned the old landmark. The old landmark is where we started. People don't realize. And if we go back to where we started, I think our values are far greater than they are now because we love one another. Today, we don't love each other. We don't love each other anymore. We don't care about it. If it don't affect me, I don't worry about it. You see what I'm saying? And then we got people, it's sad to say, people make you, so-called Christian people make you don't want to be a part of religion. Because you see these people saying, I got God in me, and acting the way they act. How can we have a minister, a politician gives an award to the sheriff who's always shown us his true color? But he got them where he got them, so therefore they run up behind him, won't hold him accountable. See, it's about accountability. And we just afraid to hold people accountable. We want people to like us. We have got to get out of the like us mode. How we want somebody to like who we don't like? We don't even like us. Because if we did, we wouldn't do the things we do. See, we allow our children to walk in the community and do what they do. It was a time when you was in the community, I don't care who you saw or what elderly person you saw, you have respect for that person. And it was not snitching when they called your mama or your dad and beat you during their today. That was not snitching. That was prevention. That was prevention. My mom said all the time, boy, I beat you like this to keep you from them people, to keep the people from beating you. So we have got to go back to things that have worked for us. And what has worked for us is loving each other. And God, most importantly, being our refuge. God has always been there for us. But we use God now. Everybody want to talk God, God. And you ain't even acting like you know God. But you're having God. I'm too stressed to be stressed, and you cuss like a mad rapper. But you're too stressed to be cussed. To be glad. Come on, man. We have got to look at ourselves. And back in the day, we had slaves, we had the slave master, and we had the overseer. We have become the overseers of us. We don't have a white guy that's cracking the whip anymore. Black men are cracking the whip, and guess what? They don't have to be quicker to kill us than that white slave overseer ever was. We kill each other quicker than that slave overseer ever dared to kill us.
So Lester, are we the authors of our own undoing?
We are the authors of our own undoing.
Okay, so now if we are the authors of our own doing, why do we blame police for so much of what's going on? And let me also add to this, with all of the Black folks that serve in the Shreveport Police Department, do you think there's racial profiling still going on there?
So that, yes, it's racial profiling. And we just as racist for one another as the white people are. So how can I be mad with a white man? We got too many Black officers in these departments and in these police departments of the city to allow what go on to Black people. I'm talking about your people that look just like you. And you allow this to go on and you don't open them out. We have no courage anymore. We have no backbone anymore. We go along and get along. We want to be right. And but we want people to do for us what we want to do for ourselves. How can I talk about what white people don't do? And I see Robert in need, and I want to help my own brother. But I want somebody that white people come to my aid. And that's our problem. We're looking for somebody to come to our aid. We got everything we need. You just said rebuild a country. But here we are looking for somebody to come rescue us from us. And that's the problem, man. We have got to get rid of it. People get mad when you say we got too many. I hope I don't violate any code. We got too many bootlegged, graded side people in position that want to make decisions for us, and they don't have our best interests at heart.
Yeah.
They don't have our best interests at heart, but they make a decision. We have got to get those type of people away from us. We need people that care. Got some Jesus in them first, but care about people. It don't have to be your child to care. Man, look, my heart bleeds. That's why I've been doing this since 88, when God called me out of the streets. And I have never looked back. I've never received a penny for nothing I've done. I've been offered money. But I tell people all the time, God got me. And sometimes I don't have a penny, but before the day is over, God bless me with something.
Sure.
So therefore, I know my help comes from. And I don't have to bow. I don't have to bootleg. I don't have to walk dance. I am a man. I walk like a man. Talk like a man. Say what I say, and I mean what I say. And if you don't like it, that's on you.
So let's talk about Mayor Perkins. Do you think he's done a good enough job? Do you think he's done what he can with what he has? And also, coming up in this 22 election, would you vote to re-elect him?
I think the mayor has surrounded himself with the wrong people first and foremost. When he ran for that office, we talked to him a lot. But you got people that don't know A from B, making decisions down there with you who don't know. You don't know A from B. You got people down there who don't know A, making decisions. And so therefore, we get what we got. Nothing. I don't think there's been a job created under Mayor Perkins' administration. Nothing, industrial-wise, economic-wise, what I'm saying. I think, but we let people based on who somebody tells us to vote. We never take the time to study anything. White people give their elected officials an assignment. You follow their assignment, or we will recall you come election. But we just say people down there and allow us to misuse us continuously. And we skin and grin, we won't be like, I don't care what. I like you.
I agree with Brother Lester. The crazy part about it is Brother Lester been saying something that made a lot of sense, because you all know me. I helped, in a sense, get a lot of these people elected. And the first thing I tell them when I decide to support them, you can say these things now, but if things change, you can rest assured, just as I went hard to paint for you, I will come against you. And I have a saying, no, I'm serious. I have Genghis Khan, one of the greatest generals, warriors of all time, has said, he said, I am the punishment of God. If you would not have committed such great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. And if they come with this change up after they get in, I act as the punishment of God, and I bring the full wrath of what God puts in me. If I have to expose you as being in the closet or undercover, whatever I have to do to make sure that you will never get that chance to deceive us again, that's what I'll do. And, I'm nobody, but at the same time, like let's say, Mr. Left say, when you don't go along and get it off, you become blackballed.
Sure.
They won't let you get jobs. They won't let you get opportunities. Yeah, they won't.
But you just said it. You said they won't let. See, that is the problem. I said you're waiting on somebody to do it. If we did Black Wall Street and they destroyed it in 1921, why can't we build our own Black Wall Street? We were educated. We were everything that those people ever were back then.
But when you say they, think about it. The majority of our parents, and I said it, are Black people. So it's not. So yeah.
But I just want to be clear on the date, because I hold Black people accountable. I hold Black people accountable for the conditions in our community. I hold you accountable when your yard gets clean and you go clean it up. Yeah. I hold you accountable when Miss Sarah, senior citizen, knows she can't get out of her yard, and you got an able-bodied Black man who say you got awareness, and you won't go help that widow woman out there. See, we talk Bible, but then we neglect the Bible when it comes to action. But the Bible says that widows and the orphans and your criminal, that's what we're supposed to do in prison. But I'm not going to go help anybody. If it ain't my son in jail, I don't care what going to get. You see what I'm saying? We have got to take a good hard-bone look at ourselves and stop wishing and hoping somebody like us, who we are, and trying to please other people. But we need to be about the business of first pleasing God and self-concept.
So Robert, let me ask you guys this. Robert just made the point that most of our Black leaders, most of our leaders are Black. And so, Robert, I asked you this question, and I've asked this of every guest that sat here, white and Black. Do you think that Black leadership has failed the Black community here in Shreveport?
Really, it's the Black face on the white agenda. Really what's going on. Because you can say every place you Black, no. The streets are full by the white public guy. It's really that simple. Because think about it, ain't too many Black people putting no money behind these politicians here in Shreveport. As far as the community. Yeah. So these white people come in and say, look, man, we're gonna get you elected as mayor. And once we get you there, this is what we need to do, and to help that along home. Here's a little something. So these cats, I call it the blackface on white agenda. I mean, they're not black when it comes down to us and policies that affect us. Because as you see, the only one who doesn't get anything from these politicians are us.
Danny Imani Chanua says, can't wait till I'm a guest on the show. He said Lester Smith, who's done outreach in the Moortown community. Okay, Danny, we gonna bring you in, brother. Sandra Cook, we see you. Tressa Thomas, we see you. David Cox says, the question is, will there be support for Mayor Perkins? He believes not. What about you, Robert?
I mean, right now, who do you see beating? Who do you see beating? Now, I'm gonna be real. There's one person I don't think that has the right materials right now, but she got somebody like Lavette Fuller that can give him a run for it.
Yeah, I believe so.
You know, she can give him a run for it, but she has to have a little bit more passion for the black guy. I'm gonna be real.
Okay, there you go.
You know, she had to have a little bit more passion, but right now, unless I'm gonna be real, unless Price came back, there's nobody gonna run against him that's gonna beat him.
Well, let me ask you this, Robert, because in talking to James Fleury and Jim Talaferro last week, the question was, do you think a white man can ever be mayor again in Shreveport? And so, of course, they said they both think that they could secure the black vote. They do believe that a white man has a chance to be in mayor. I agree with you. Lavette Fuller could possibly give Mayor Perkins a run for his money, but she does need to, all due respect, Lavette, you do need to align yourself with more black voters because her voter base, I think, is mostly white folks. And so you need to get to the middle of the road and vote, and so where you reach out to both sides of the aisle, both color sides. Rodney Beard says racial profiling is a prerequisite. Okay, and so, but back to you, Robert. If you were mayor, what would you do? And you answer this also, Lester. Would you fire that cat? Is hey Rodney Beard? That cat is Robert Thomas Jr. Yeah, he asked me who you are. Andre Elias said, "What you ignore, you enable." So anyway, anyway, we got our other guest coming on in the house right now, y'all. She's another freedom fighter. She's a bad. I wasn't gonna say that other word. She a bad mama jamma. Yeah, she a bad mama jamma. She a freedom fighter. She's an activist around here, and she is none other than Greek People. Welcome to the show, Greek People. Yeah, look. That's what she's known for right there, that big bullhorn she got over there.
You got a flashlight on it now.
Say it loud, I'm black and proud.
So, Danny Imani says, my question is, why are there black police officers that's a part of the gang activity here in Shreveport? Wow. That's a good
Rita. Tell them who you are.
My name is Brika People, B-R-E-K-A. I am a Louisiana state activist. I can't say a community activist because I'm not in one community. I'm across Louisiana. I am also the founder of the People's Promise.
The People's Promise. Yeah, we've heard of People's Promise. And let us say that, you know, we've all known Brika for quite a while here. Brika was our friend and she was our foe. Now she our friend again. So this time we hope to keep Brika with us. She gangster. Okay.
Do you think this racism within the police department, if it is, how can we build better working relationships? What are the solutions to stand out, try to build bridges? Because there's a disconnect with the police department all over there. The first thing they do, they probably get a list by the right ticket. And they have no moral and no passion to come to us. Do you think the people within the department are good cops? All the police the bad cops. And if that being the case, how can we hold the police department and this current culture accountable?
Well, start with chief on the 5-bed ranking. You gotta get an officer, a chief that can identify with our people. If we have a chief that can't identify with our people, how can we expect them to run the city?
So,
Some of my
so
daughters.
tell-
Black.
tell us why you don't think Ben identifies.
We saw the race for it, Norwood High School. High school, you can't identify.
So tell us also, because we asked these guys a question as well. What do you think about Mayor Adrian? Me and Mike know, but what do you think about Mayor Adrian Perkins? And has he done a good enough job that you would reelect him, or do you see somebody else out there that could possibly take?
But sometimes I feel like I be wanting Adrian to win so bad. I be like, because I don't hold grudges. I don't hold grudges. So I don't be mad. This is business. So I mean, if Adrian, I want him to win. I do want him to win because we don't want to see our brother.
Sure,
But my thing is this: we got to also hold our people accountable.
absolutely.
I think what it is with our people, when we in office, we don't hold them accountable, we forget they in office. So it's like we just left them there and expect them to do right, but you don't know if they're not doing. Only way you know if they're doing right, you go to the city council.
So Brika, do you said we forget they in office, but my question to you is, with some of our black leaders, and you can weigh in too, Robert Lester. Sometimes with our black leaders get in office, do they forget they in office?
They forget about the people they serve. They
Yeah.
can't identify with the people they serve.
Right.
You gotta see. Look at LBJ. Look at Stephen Jackson. Look at Lane Carter. They can identify the people.
Yeah.
You know, they can go in any neighborhood.
I got a story about Steve Jackson. I bring it up at the show.
But I'm just saying, but they still, even though people have a difference, because I could tell somebody, you know, about another city person that, you know, I'm not mad at them.
Speak on it then, Brika.
I'm not mad at them.
Just keeping it
I'm
real.
not mad at them. I just think going for our public officials, because it's
Yeah.
doing hard.
Yeah.
And if we go back in history of what happened with them, they can see these are the main people that was fighting for us. So they would try everything to try to shut you down. They would put false charges on you to try to shut you down. So I'm not there. But they wait for Larry Jenkins. So I started digging and see what's going on with him. Larry was hell. Larry, he came through here and he was a regular bomb. I said, oh, that's why they don't like Larry. I said, let me go talk to Larry. See, I'm that type of person. I didn't know what's going on. Why?
Brika, why you think so much killing going on in Shreveport?
Because we got SOB. I mean, if you if you have a chief that don't care about the city, how you expecting him to take care of it? He can identify with our people. Then you have somebody that don't have an experience with our people, don't come out in the community with our people in a academy. We're not going to give the officers in academy. Why are we not putting policies in place for doing contracts? Most of our officers are getting trained in through our academy because we got the best training because we play big time.
Right.
And after they get out, they go straight to voting. But why we don't have contracts in place where if you come out of we paying for it with our money, then you gotta work at least 2 years. Why they don't have it in place?
Like the military.
Like the military. Yeah, like the military, because we spend big money.
So let me piggyback off what you just said, Brika. So Ben Raymond doesn't care about the black community, but Ben Raymond answers to a black man.
He don't answer to a black man. The black man has to be right.
So Perkins answered to Ben Raymond?
Who's running the city? You see what I see. I don't have to tell people what they see. They see what I see.
Okay.
They see what I see. He don't run it. I mean, I not run out.
What can I say on it?
The one person that nobody is holding accountable is the sheriff.
Damn, come on, bro.
I mean, if it wasn't for the sheriff, we wouldn't have race. You see what I'm saying?
So it wasn't for Bowman. Just get that right. Don't do wrong.
The way they did two-step, yeah. Right, yeah, you blame, but
You got it from Arkansas.
yeah, the sheriff was the one who, you know, that was his voice.
You don't get no more time for man. So you make it correct. I'm a wonder. Nobody don't get no more. So
Some of these guys do that. They got
They
that.
got Martin.
They got one. Yeah,
We
you can
don't
say
know
that.
that. We don't know that.
Yeah.
We picked the meeting of the week to represent them.
what I'm saying is nobody can take me out and tell me what to do. I'm gonna do what's right for the people because at the end of the day, when these people will hurt you. I mean, and then the people will against you, but you still gonna get the people. So As for them, I don't care how they think about me. You think I don't tell them about themselves?
That's right.
You think I'm gonna tell them about themselves? I'm gonna be okay with it because guess what? I don't gotta fight them battles, but people gonna fight them.
Chad Johnson says, why do Americans have the money to buy politicians, push certain legislative agendas? He says, we Black Americans typically don't have the money to buy politicians. Without money, we don't have a base. We don't have a base. And something else I can't see.
Our people should come together.
They
with
use
the money.
they use green power to buy black power.
Let me say this.
Agree.
That's how you look at the over there. Trying to stop it.
Let me say this. What's been around the name one name? I got together with a group of Black men, old school and young school. And we did the first ever game truce in North Louisiana. First ever. And we come together in the program. And I Bishop Fred Cole, I think this guy named Speaker, they agree with it, Baptist Church. And Bishop allowed that guy to come out. We had just put our first book of men together for the Midnight Basketball Program.
Yeah.
And he allowed this guy, NFL player, to come speak to those guys. And every week, I brought in different individuals to speak to those young men. Crime was decreased. We had hoops in the park, hoops in the park, hoops for hope. And the Kettle Parish Commission finance, we could get a nickel from the city.
Michael Williams.
Okay, Michael, since you want to call me Michael Williams, a version of middle school, long age, yeah. But anyway, those guys really made a difference because we went to the winter program. I even got a contract to do the marketing study. They were doing economic development study. My company did marketing. So when we got people that understand where we're coming from, we can get things done. But as long as we got people looking out for themselves and themselves alone, we met with those young guys. We didn't go to them and say, we're going to do y'all juice. We allow the people that are causing the problem to come to the table and make their demand. And we got the desire. We can meet, get the purple in the face. If we don't bring the individuals in that's causing the chaos, we're not going to get anything done. We did it. Crenshaw cruising up there, Joy Greenwood Road. Couldn't get in, couldn't get out. Every weekend, I met with those people, got in the midst of, and told them exactly what they had. At 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 3 o'clock, that Sunday morning, news reporter called. National News was profit. Because I predict when somebody's child was laying in the middle of judo, that yellow sheet over, then hear the leaders come. The camera was rolling now. You want to be on camera. You see, we got to get out of that camera mentality and roll our sleeves up, get down and get dirty.
Let me say this here. I still believe on the spirit of inclusion and work together that they impact in Shreveport. And I believe we pray on the path of work. Yes, sir, because nobody's going to save us. Everybody else, every culture spend their money together. We got and you look at our community, we don't own nothing. We got all the liquor stores are owned by somebody else. All the grocery stores, all the mom and pop tie shops. The wig and weave is owned by somebody else.
Yeah.
They come to us, and most of the rent houses are owned by somebody else. If we learn to redirect our money, redirect our power and resources, one thing America understands, only power and economics.
Why have we not, and everybody weigh in, why have we not redirected our money?
Question. Go ahead.
I'm just keeping it real. No offense. Go ahead. Jesus getting most of the money every Sunday. I mean, stop and think about it. In these neighborhoods that you talk about, we don't own nothing, but there's billion-dollar churches sitting in these neighborhoods. These churches are worth more than half the property in these neighborhoods. So I don't know. It's a pretty precarious situation, but I'm a firm believer that we got to stop. Put it like this: we can't keep praising the God of our oppressors and expect not to be oppressed anymore. When you tell me turn the other cheek or slaves obey their masters, we no longer have a conversation because you're no good to the struggle and progression of Black people. Because that's a God that was given to us to keep us oppressed. And here we are. 400 years later, still talking about hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter. But every Sunday, Jesus getting that money every Sunday.
Go ahead. Agree with you.
I think y'all are coming together and build a plan. Everybody in the build a plan to take money behind our. It's not that we can $20 a month, $20 a week. Everybody can come together and do it. I mean, I don't think it's hard for us to do because we got, in order for our people to run, we got to put money behind our own people. And
Chad Johnson says we need, I'm just reading some comments from Facebook, y'all. Jerry Bowman, we see you. Chad Johnson said we need policy that's not just empty words. He says church money, which goes to banks, fund the gentrification of our own community. David Cox says attitudes will not change, so the problem will keep growing within the young people. Go ahead.
I'm about to hop out this real quick about the young people, because I'm feeling why we don't have bills in place to protect our people from the police. I mean, that's a question that we need to ask. We ask our commissioners, our councilmen, our state officials, because I did my rounds with them all week and asked them when we gonna put a bill in place to protect us from the police. And to answer your question earlier, yes, we have good police officers, but our good police officers are not protected within the system. They are hurting now. Our Black women that are police officers are hurting now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are going through it now. So we know we can take it with very well. You see here, my mouth all the time because I call him.
You hit his mouth all the time, Jerry, but
Oh, he do.
so the police deal, we see you.
I'm not gonna, I don't get bold on Facebook. I get them on their phone. I get them on their phone, so they can't never say bring the people's dollars for us.
Or lock him in that council chamber where he can't run, huh?
Oh, nah, he on their phone. We gonna call.
Well, both of us,
Yeah, both of the people. He got identified with people too.
But like Robert said about, I don't want to seem like the church bad, but I just wish the church would open its eyes. Because they handle a lot of money in the Black community. And I just see other people, I see that white guy down there outside of Mama. He put people to work, allow people to, do businesses in the building. So what I'm saying is there is enough money going through the bank that white people have control of. And we don't have no say over that money, but it's our money. And we don't have a say over the money. We can't go make a loan. So it look like some of our religious leaders would see the need to say, well, let us unite, create a Baptist credit union and allow our people to borrow money. And I see those win-win situations because if you got a good side of it, if you borrow the money, you got to stick on tax on what he's making money. You still gonna pay the loan.
I think is we gotta stop concentrating on the pastors and giving them much power. We can go back in the community and reprogram our people. We don't have to, our people understand that the pastors are not doing as much as they should. All we gotta do is go in the community because they not.
Okay.
And listen, Andre Jones says preachers are not getting all the money. He says preachers are not getting all the money. We need to stop playing the blame game. It's not the preacher's fault that we don't have ownership in our own area. Andre, I agree with that.
Man, when you got pastors around here driving, when you got pastors around here with 2 billion.
Let's see who fault is that though.
Come on,
That's our fault.
That's
That's the people's fault.
Come on,
And we can't concentrate on that
and then keep it
because if we concentrate on that, we're not gonna try to fix it. We gotta reprogram our people.
Breaker, do we think the NAACP doing enough? Silence falls across the room.
I would answer that.
Answer that.
No. Capital H.
At the end of, I will always defend the brand of the NAACP because I love the NAACP. My godfather is the state president, but no, I feel like it's the chapter, the members here, because you gotta say members, you can't say NAACP as a whole.
Okay, members
we
here.
can't say the members.
Yeah.
Some of the members stop doing what they're supposed to. Yes, I can't agree with that. I feel like some of them are, well, I'm not gonna say I feel like some of them, they need to be doing more. We just had a baby that got pushed down by a white chick. Where I keep it.
Was this reported on the news?
Let me tell you, sir, yes, it was. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
When I got the phone call about her getting a summons, I made sure I went to the city council meeting to go talk to Deputy Chief who I did from why this woman was summoned and not arrested. Because Some of y'all might don't know, but my mom and I for 23 years. I've seen them arrest plenty of teachers for putting their hands on children.
Right.
So I'm trying to ask her why and why was that. So yes, the news did know because I made sure the news knew because I asked them. Yeah, I actually did, but she why the woman wasn't arrested.
Why one more question about that?
Yeah, but he's a first grader. He's a back. You know, that's why we have principals and we got disciplinary principals. Like we have counselors. Like, so if you have a problem with a child, you can you know, it's not covered.
Hey, so check this out, y'all. Wendy Chisholm, she says, when you have political and city leaders profiting from crime,
Wow.
policing the police and
Wow.
these leaders, follow the money and the honey. That's why.
They go where the money resides. She say go where the money resides. I know the Chisholm. Miss Chisholm, you the truth, baby. Speak the truth.
Again, that goes back to nobody, we always talk about the city police keeping up, but nobody talks about Prater. Do you all realize how much money this man making up the street?
Oh, yeah.
If you got 1,300 inmates in that jail, or 1,700, because they overcrowded, way overcrowded, and you getting $30 to $40 a day per inmate, and you're only spending $1 per inmate, how much you profit? So there's no incentive on stopping. Actually, they're going to help facilitate the crime. Because again, you cannot convince me that some of these police, some of these entities are not putting these dope on the street. It pays, yeah, it pays on which side you are.
Why is it that nobody wants to hold Mr. Prater?
Oh,
They scared.
do you realize how much power this man got?
I don't care about the
I mean, you might not, but the truth is, this man is head of Homeland Security for years. This man got so much pull, he can make a call. I got called with something that I do as a Secret Service. They had the Secret Service watching me for something that somebody else did on Facebook. He has the power to put you under a grave under the prison system. And I mean, it's not, I mean, I'm gonna be real. I went head up against him quite a few times. Knowing I'm a 3-time felon, but I have no fear. And that's what we gotta get back.
I'm talking about people that are in
these positions because, I mean, think about it. He got a little black book with a lot of people's secrets in it. And if you don't want these secrets to come out and play ball,
So let me ask y'all this. The sheriff department, as far as what I've seen, I could be wrong. It seems to be predominantly black folks. So do you think that there's a culture of fear that those deputies have under Prater's reign? Because we also know that when they're fired, they don't have a civil service board that they nothing to protect them, and the sheriff has no oversight. So I believe what Robert said, the sheriff is the most, in my opinion, powerful man in the city.
He dictates a lot of your politics, who your politicians are going to be. The sheriff does. Like I say, the way they play that two-step, well, Mayor Perkins actually just had an emergency go away and Baldwin stepped in. All that was choreographed, man. It was synchronized. And your sheriff is the ringleader of it all, but he's the one that gets away scot-free every time. We talk about the police. I mean, the sheriff, think about this. The sheriff, they say it's a parish thing and a city thing. No, the parish, the sheriff has he has the ability to come in and help, whether he's asked or not, because Freeport sits in Caddo County.
And I'm gonna tell you something else. You make sure you put a phone in place. You don't want person to arrest the sheriff.
Exactly.
Well, we know they got Darius McFarland out there and brought in Todd Thomas. Danny Imani says Freddie Ashola is the poster child when you mess with Prater.
Exactly.
This is what's happening.
Man, that man had the Secret Service. I was just on. Freddie was doing something, put my name on Facebook. Do you realize the Secret Service thing got basically looking at all because of one phone call? How many politicians?
What was on Facebook?
He was making threats. He was making idle comments. I would say they were so much threats. Yeah, I wouldn't say they were idle threats. He was making incendiary comments directed toward the sheriff. And the sheriff's like, okay, nigger boy, you want to play these guys? What other politicians in Shreveport, or really in Louisiana, can call the Secret Service?
And let me ask you guys a question about voting, because we got a few minutes, just a couple minutes left. How come when it is the mayor's running for election, we can vote for a black person, but when it's time to elect the sheriff, the black folks ain't going out to elect somebody else.
You gotta get somebody that's elected.
Yeah.
And also someone of people that's gonna be there for the people.
Yeah.
We have people that we can run for sheriff, that we don't support, we don't support because our friend mad at them, or our people tell them not to vote, or our people tell them not to vote. But we have people in place, we just gotta put people in place to straighten.
And let me tell you, one of the first things the sheriff does, he makes sure he has your politicians in his pocket at election time. He's gonna do a circuit of all the black churches. He's gonna get support where you never thought he would get supported, like you all say. We need to have somebody that has that is electable and who's not afraid to challenge it.
Okay, and we got 2 minutes left, so Brika people take 30 seconds. I'm gonna give you the last word, and let me assure you all that we're gonna get Brika and Robert Thomas Jr. back here again. We gonna need you next time for the whole hour too, Brika. Don't be late. Get the last word.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, what I'm supposed to say now?
Whatever you want to say. 30
Well,
seconds.
I need our people to go out and register to vote. I need to go vote at election time, and I also need to make Saturday at 12 o'clock at the protest. Also, no more marching to CCC, and we hold it on the council. And I need to go to the city council meeting and the school board meetings this Tuesday.
Okay, so y'all heard that vibe and then living color from Brika people. We want to thank Brika people. We want to thank Robert Thomas Jr. for coming in here and keeping it real. So won't y'all tune in again each and every Thursday from 45 to 6 p.m. on your after work drive home here on Keeping It Real. And again, we say thank you all for tuning in. We're gonna still be here for another few seconds on Facebook Live. But right now, we about to get out of here. We'll see. Peace. Hey, good go, y'all. Good go. Good go. Good go. Yeah. Sandra Cook, thank you for tuning in. Annie Pipkin says, stop speaking bad about preachers. Pray for them.